Welcome to Close Listening. I'm Zach Morgenstern, joined as always by silent co-host Ludwig von B. I've kind of gradually been finding myself going through the John Lennon solo albums. A couple years back, I bought myself a copy of Mind Games. I can't remember if I even knew the title song at the time. It's just such a cool psychedelic album, and I just never got around to listening to it until recently. And as is often the case, the cover may be a bit misleading. This is not a particularly psychedelic album, and arguably Walls and Bridges, the next John Lennon album, is even more psychedelic because of the number 9 Dream song. But I guess what I'd say about this album is that an appropriate metaphor for it is treading water. Is that a good thing? Is it a bad thing? It can be both. So this opens with the Majestic title track of Mind Games, and it's, for better or for worse, the best track on the album by far. It's a bit lyrically awkward when you just see it written on the page, but John makes it work with his delivery. He draws out phrases like playing those mind games, implying a kind of long, complex struggle. So supposedly the song is based on a book called Mind Games by Robert Masters and Gene Houston. And from a cursory look, it's hard to get too much of a sense of the book. You know, it seems like a new agey self-help thing, but I haven't read it, so I don't want to be unfair. I don't know enough about it. The point is, John Lennon thought it was brilliant, and he thought he'd write a song about this. And the way the liner notes describe it is that it's still sort of a political song, like the idea of, you know, having the right mental focus in order to change the world or something. That said, there's also autobiographical stuff in the liner notes, and my instinct was more to interpret this one as being about John and Yoko's relationship. So the chorus states the very simple premise that love is the answer, and then the second chorus says yes is the answer, which is a reference to an art piece that made John fall in love with Yoko in the first place. So it seems what's going on with this song is, on the one hand, John is thinking, Yoko and I are soulmates, we're perfect for each other, and, you know, love should keep us together. And yet we still have to play these complex mind games to stay happy together. What the heck's going on? This feels like a contradiction. So that was my interpretation of the song. Track number 2 is called Tight Ass, and ass spelled A with a $sign. So the rest of the tracks on the album after Mind Games are where I really get this metaphor of treading water from. So of the John Lennon albums I've listened to so far, musically, these are some of the most pleasant things. The sound is just nice and calm. The musical production is complete. It doesn't sound amateurish in the way the first 1.5 John Lennon solo albums did. There's also a kind of lack of drama in the music. The songs are just kind of there. So Tight Ass is kind of a bluesy, or now that I think of it, more of a 1950s rockabilly song, and it has a nice clean sound that makes it pleasant to listen to. It doesn't have any of that mumbly, fuzzy grit of when John Lennon has improvised the blues in the past. So it's pleasant to listen to, but at the same time, sometimes when John Lennon is a bit dirty and gritty, it rises to the level of brilliance. You get a really charismatic song like Give Me Some Truth or What You Got. So Tight Ass, it's catchy, the lyrics are kind of fun, but yeah, it's not as charismatic as those most charismatic Lennon songs. Track number 3, Asuma-sen, Japanese word for sorry, though I believe there's maybe a slightly awkward thing going on with the translation here. This song is John pleading Yoko for forgiveness. And again, I get that treading water feel. You know, it sounds like John is singing calmly in a beautiful pool, like he's convinced that this forgiveness will come. Now, apparently at the same time autobiographically, or at least by the time the song was heard, Yoko had split up with John, so there might be some more urgency under the surface here, but nothing about this song sounds too dramatic. Track number 4 is called One Day at a Time. So this one feels kind of like it's continuing the lyrical theme of Asuma-sen, but musically it sounds quite different. It sounds like a chorus of Wizard of Oz munchkins, with John singing not necessarily falsetto, but in his higher range. You know, it feels kind of like psychedelic era Beatles. One of the great things you can say about this record is each song tries to sound a little different, but they all do have that sort of calm, nothing too dramatic feel to them. Again, treading water. And this song even has the metaphor, I'm the fish and you're the sea. Track number 5 is called Bring on the Lucy, Free to People. I don't really understand this title. It wasn't easy from a cursory look to figure out what's going on here. But it is undoubtedly a catchy song. As I said, one of the good things John Lennon is doing is changing the sound of each song a bit here. And this one has a sort of loud slide guitar thing going on. So it sounds kind of like one of the better George Harrison songs. And it has some, real political energy behind it. It's much vaguer than the political protest songs John Lennon was doing before. The liner notes say it's about Richard Nixon, who's about to be booted out of office anyway. But it's that trade-off. On the one hand, it's the political substance is less interesting than the stuff on Sometime in New York. On the other hand, the musical production is nice and smooth. So it's almost like it's a better produced version of Give Peace a Chance. Track number 6 is called the Newtopian International Anthem. You would not know this song was there if you did not look at the back of the album. It's basically just seconds of silence. However, if you look in the liner notes, there is this reference to this concept created by John and Yoko of a country where you could become a citizen just by thinking about the country and acknowledging it exists. So there's no borders, no passports. This was their absurdist way of protesting the fact that American authorities were trying to get John kicked out of the United States at the time. So yeah, cool art concept, not really a song, even though it tells you this is track 6. There is not a track 6. Track number 7 is called Intuition. So again, we get some nice musical choices. This one is a nice little vibraty electric piano part to make it sound different. And look, it may not be the most interesting or memorable song on here the way that Mind Games is, but lyrically, I think, it just captures something specific about human nature, and it's coherent. It's a more fully developed concept than a lot of these songs. It's sort of saying, I'm a confident guy. I feel like my way of navigating through the world mostly works and makes sense, but also I've just been kind of going on intuition. So one of these days I'm going to get myself in trouble. Track number 8 is called Out of the Blue. It opens with a singer-songwritery, minimalist finger-picking thing before developing into a bigger sound, kind of mid-70s Cat Stevens stuff with the backup singers. But yeah, lyrically, it just continues the feel of I Sumasen and One Day at a Time, John just being very grateful that someone, presumably Yoko, found him. Track number 9 is called Only People. This is a fun, very 70s sounding jingle kind of song, reminiscent of that, Coca-Cola, I'd like to teach the world to sing song. It has multiple vocalists, it has hand claps into it. And I guess this is probably the most compelling protest song on here. Again, no specifics. This is not Sometime in New York. John's not really talking about specific issues, but almost what he's saying here is, yeah, protesting can be tiring. It can be tough to get the people to come out every day, but only the people are going to change the world. So we have to come out and sing our happy 70s hippie songs and keep the protest movement going. Track number 10 is called I Know, I Know. This repeats the common theme on this album of a sense of romantic failure. Also references the concepts we've seen in Mind Games and Intuition. There's a line that goes, I know I'm guilty, but I can never read your mind. And it also uses the line, I miss the forest for the wood. And yes, that's just a slight paraphrasing of a cliche, but it also feels like something that Yoko Ono would say. She's very into anthropomorphizing objects to try and get out an artistic message. Track number 11 is called You Are Here. This one just feels kind of Jimmy Buffett-ish. It has a travel sound to it. John thinking about the connection of his soul from Liverpool with Yoko's soul from Tokyo. And then weirdly enough, track 12, the very end of the album, is finally where we lose that treading water feel and we get edgy, gritty John again with an electric guitar that sounds like it's giving off sparks. Musically, I can't tell if the meaning of this one is a Lou Reed-esque style celebration of New York being a kind of gritty place, or if it's a more negative depiction saying, America's a dog-eat-dog kind of country. I have to imagine both things are going on because both thoughts certainly existed in John's mind. There's also a weird throwaway verse about wanting to check out China, which I guess is John tepidly saying, maybe I'm a Maoist, probably not, I'm not really sure. I'll just throw this in there because it's a part of my soul. So messy song, rocking song, very weird way to end this album, which is mostly a very calm album. So in short, Mind Games is one of these albums that starts with by far its strongest song. And I'm not sure I'm going to have any of the other melodies really stuck in my head. At the same time, I do think there are some strong B+, A- songs on here. One Day at a Time for the Munchkin feel, Bring on the Lucy, Three to People, Intuition, and Only People, are all good enough John Lennon songs that as someone who's trying to know a solo career a bit better, I'm glad I got to hear them. So let me know your thoughts on Mind Games in the comments below. I'm Zach Morgenstern. This is Ludwig von B. See you next time.